Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
We shrunk a little bit. Just outside the window where I'm staying, there's a fellow that leaves for work every morning at 6:30, comes back at 5:30. He's a workaholic guy. And Saturdays and Sundays, I was wondering, is he going to work today? He went to work today. So many people are working today, apparently, although it's a national holiday. And I don't know if you heard, but the whole southern states it's in panic because of snow and cold. In Atlanta, last time there was 2 inches of snow, they shut the airport down because they don't have snow removal in Atlanta. And rather than risk accident, they just shut it down. 2,000 flights were canceled in one day. And then the next day they ran. 6 inches in Houston, record temperature, cold, and so it's cold up here and it's cold down there for those folks at least. Probably not the best weekend to hold an event. It was a nice idea, national holiday, but look at national holiday. Those persons who consider schedules should consider the schedule for next year. Maybe not this weekend. Maybe, maybe not. So Vaishnava Etiquette is the theme of our discussion, different presentations on that theme. Refreshing to have a new voice and a new face with Radha Krishna Prabhu. I was told the youth really liked him. Verification? Anyone else that has young children, youth? No response. Hello? Yes? Okay. I think our adults liked him too, and he's fun. Serious, but fun, both. So let's see if we have some thoughts, some discussion on the theme of the weekend. Practically anything that you'd like to speak about is good. I've got a new name.
One thing I have observed is often when there's a very heavy conditioning, we don't recognize it. In other words, we don't even acknowledge it. So in certain areas where there's, let's say for example, like trauma, or people who have gone through trauma or abuse, their method of behaving is often, can be problematic or severe, but because it's been inculcated from childhood, it's something that they may not even register. So how does the aspect of psychological damage affect one's ability to act according to etiquette?
Oh, come on. We're conditioned souls. So conditioned souls are conditioned. And some misfortune, whatever the label of misfortune may be, is going to impact what we can hear, what we can understand, how we behave, what we feel, what we see, how we communicate, because we're conditioned. That's what you're asking? He wants to say something more.
No, I guess that's what I'm asking. It just seems like on one hand it's easy to hear about proper etiquette, but if there's like, perhaps I'm not using the right sphere, but a psychological condition, that seems to kind of outweigh, or at least apply principles differently.
Sure.
So as a culture, how do we address?
We're conditioned souls. That's saying, the presentation is we're not going to understand what Vaishnava etiquette is, or we will have an understanding of what it is according to our conditioning. We got filters. We hear according to our conditioning, and we behave according to that. And for at least a little while, and then we go back to the other, that not Vaishnava etiquette behavior.
Should there be any different approach for those who have undergone some type of traumatic experience?
Sure. I mean, I don't know if you all heard the example that Radhakrishna gave about Mother Kaushalya and her being, disturbed by circumstance and her plan, what she was going to do about that, and Prabhupada's answer was tolerate. Look what I've tolerated. So if somebody, it's Kali Yuga, and so we're giving teachings about X, in this case, Vaishnava etiquette, but X, Y, Z, anything, and the audience has conditioning, and so it's understood, and therefore repetition, and also just being very. And there comes, here's Mukunda's question, be tolerant and be respectful despite their misbehavior. Then where do you draw the line? Because you don't draw the line. And, especially somebody in an influential position, they misbehave or something. They use power differential stuff, and then people get squished. So it's certainly delicate. Yeah, I like the position, the fallback position, and whether it's this, that, or the other thing, don't depart from being respectful. Don't depart from the position of being the servant of, and ultimately the servant of Krishna. So then takes intelligence to discern where's the line. And once I've understood where the line is, how to behave or speak or not, depending upon the intelligence that Krishna gives me. So the example that you're presenting, by and large, is the population of the world in Kali Yuga, and it gets darker. And amongst ourselves, we're also conditioned. There's those that aren't living a life of devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and those that are. And those that are just in that category, they're less than perfect beings, and they're conditioned, and therefore they've been beaten up by the material energy, and they see things and feel things according to that. And honoring that, what do you do? So it takes intelligence. There's principles to follow, but the application of those principles takes intelligence. So if we don't have intelligence, what do you do? According to your intelligence, that's what you do. And you may have, less than perfect intelligence. Not may. We have less than. So we take guidance from those more intelligent. We have mentors or guides or spiritual leaders that we look up to, and we hear from them and do the best we can. And the leaders need to know that the followers are. So it's a relationship of dialogue, and the sincere souls are the ones striving to go the next step, even if damaged by, fill in the blank. And more than once and repeatedly, and it doesn't change the objective. Your question is different from, but similar to, Sri Radhika's question about morality versus Bhagavad Dharma. These are subtle topics, but so we value, like Yudhishthira, we value ethics and proper conduct. And if you're not Yudhishthira, you may not offer respect to Dhritarashtra. You may just avoid coming before such a person because he's who he is. That's okay. But he's a king. Yudhishthira was the would-be emperor, so he has to set an example. He sets an example. So each of us are making decisions. And we're endowed with this capacity to make choices, and we make choices preferably according to the intelligence given by Super Soul, and not according to the demands of the mind and senses. And we're going to make mistakes because we're less than perfect, but you go in the direction of, it's a sincere devotee, has good examples and good teachings, and they make their best effort to follow the good examples and good teachings and good teachers. Although less than perfect. And move in the direction of the light and away from darkness. Now, throw in the mix your question. That's damaged goods that can't hear what is actually being said, or the instructions, or the standard, or so forth. And then they misunderstand, so they misapply and repeat. But the gradual purification opportunity is being extended. That's what we're doing. Or trying. You want to say something more on this? There's probably more to be said, but who else would like to speak something?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. When we hear about these different examples from scripture about respect, I was thinking, it seems to me like there's a real danger of...
There's a what?
There's a danger of exhibiting the behavior and making a show of the behavior without any of the internal cultivation. So...
Yeah, it's a danger. It's better imitate than to just like blah.
Yeah, that's good to know.
You know, act out of conditioning. And so the value of acting according to good examples, the value a lot depends on the sincerity of purpose of the person. If it's just to look good, or, you know, get people to say, oh, isn't he or she nice, and look at this. We all know that there's cosmetic, but at least they're trying. And, you know, there can be different purposes for different individuals. But the principle of following the example doesn't change to my capacity.
So how do we go from beyond that level to then developing it where it not only looks good, but it feels authentic?
Bhakti. Bhakti principle is ABC. Krishna should be pleased. And most of us, you know, we can check the box in our Bhakti Shastra exam, but how much of us do we actually live that way? I mean, not pointing fingers at anybody, but just in principle. But that's the cure. Bhakti is the cure. It's the disease is the disease. The cosmetic is a part of the disease. It's not real, it's just cosmetic. But, you know, for whatever the reason, people put down their cosmetics because they want people to say, oh, they look good, or whatever the reason for cosmetics. But how to make it genuine? It's bhakti. You know, good examples, good sangha, hearing, doing the purification part, you know, the kirtan and discussing and reading and this thing and that thing, and, you know, the behaviors. But then the operative principle is not just the behaviors. No, the sahajiyas, and there are people all over the place that like kirtan, and their behavior is, you know, not nice. And then there's the other end. The behavior is nice, and they don't do any. Anyway, so to cure the disease, it's bhakti, and bhakti principle is ABC. You know, in principle. And then there's the cultivation of bhakti. Do the do's, avoid the don'ts, you know, the vidhis, and then what's the purpose of the vidhis? Bhakti. It gives facility for it, potentially nourishes bhakti, but it doesn't create bhakti. You're a parent, and something that universally parents have concern about at some stage or another, or throughout, is who is my child, and who are my children associating with? Because good association can lift, and bad association can spoil. A good child can become a bad child from bad association, and vice versa. So association means a lot, and association is not just the behaviors of, but the character of the individual. So, for me at least, the reason for having this type of seminar is to help bring the spotlight on the character part, not just the behavior part. I keep repeating it, but I really liked Sri Radhika's question about morality versus Bhagavad Dharma. Because the morality can be the cosmetic thing. For whatever the reason, I'm moral because I don't steal because you don't steal. My mother said, and anybody knows you don't steal. If you steal, you're bad. You get bad, you get spanked, or you get put in jail, or you're something. You get a reaction for stealing. So don't steal. Unless you're Krishna. And then you're honored for stealing. Anyway. It's the same question. I'm just taking your question and just massaging the question a little bit. How to get to the stage where it's for the pleasure of Krishna. Bhagavad Dharma for the pleasure of Krishna, not Bhagavad Dharma that's cosmetic. We can do. It goes on. All over the place. And then there's groups. Someone holds this view, and they get together with some other people, they hold this view, and some other hold that view, and then they have groupism. Guru groupism, or isms groupism, or, and then they bash each other. Or, grossly or subtly undermine, or, Just to add to your question, this morning at 5:30, with the Chinese devotees, we are discussing the story of Dhruva. And Suruchi, and I have a nickname for her, Sunasti. And then, then the question answer, then after the question answer, there's more on the difference between sin and aparad. And the reaction of sinful reaction, is much easier to eradicate than reaction of aparad. And then, so aparad is a stain, it just doesn't easily go away. You can cosmetic it, but it doesn't go away. You can scrub it doesn't go away. The reaction is very, very serious stuff. Because in principle it's displeasing to Krishna. It's more displeasing to Krishna than sinful. So how do you get to the real, which is essentially what your question is? And then there's regulative and there's spontaneous. Just sharing, because it's a nice topic. In Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami points to explain, to illustrate genuine devotion that's not bound by regulation, it's not the cosmetic kind, it's just genuine, is Pingala. So for those of you not familiar, Krishna is narrating to Uddhava a discussion between the king, the ancestor of the Vrishni dynasty, and his discussions with an Avaduta Brahmana. An Avaduta, we have this term, Avaduta is like a weird guy, but Avaduta literally means having no affinity for matter. So Adavaduta Brahmana described to the king his 9 gurus or 11 gurus, whatever the number was, and one of his gurus was a prostitute. And then Jiva Goswami points to this example. You know, she did nothing. It's different from, but somewhat similar to Kubja. She didn't do anything pious. She didn't do anything cosmetic. She just offered sandalwood paste to Krishna. So, but he doesn't give Kubja as the example as Pingala. Mithila, she was by profession a prostitute. And the description goes, this Avaduta Brahmana describes Pingala's previous life before she became guru. She was set at her door, dressed nicely, doing what prostitutes do to entice men to come, and, you know, it was her livelihood. And no one was stopping, and she was feeling very frustrated. And this happened day after day, not just because she was poor, she wanted to have that pleasure of a prostitute and the maintenance, and it wasn't coming. And so she then just started to think about, if only I had this kind of love that the goddess of fortune has for Narayan. And then she adopted the mood of the goddess of fortune. No regulations at all, like bad stuff. And then she became an exalted Vaishnavi, spontaneously having that kind of desire, the goddess of fortune desire, and following the goddess of fortune. Became a great Vaishnavi. Became later, then she got realizations of transcendence and shared them with this Brahmana who had no attachment to things material. And this Brahmana was telling King Yadu of who his gurus were. And she was one. So all of that Jiva Goswami points to is non-regular, non-cosmetic, genuine, spontaneous bhakti. Not arising from intelligence, not arising from regulation that then awakens a spiritual intelligence that then guides the mind and senses, and so, the regulative path, it wasn't hers. Now, we're not supposed to imitate her or Kumja. But it's just a teaching that says there's 2 tracks, regulative and spontaneous, and supposing we're on the regulative path, back to your question, and we're doing things because they ought to be done and not doing things because they ought not to be done, but it's not genuine. For whatever the reason that we do it. It can be a variety of reasons, modes of nature kinds of reasons. How do you get to genuine? Which is the question. That's our question. We can speak of Vaishnava etiquette, but where's the Bhagavad Dharma part of the Vaishnava etiquette? I've been meditating on your question, and the real meaning, because it came out in the discussion this morning with the Chinese devotees about the offense of Suruchi. And she didn't know that her son was going to become a Mahabhagavata, a great Vaishnava. She didn't know that. But when Vishnu came and informed Dhruva, you're going to become king for 36,000 years, and then you're going to go to Dhruvaloka, and your stepmother is going to lose her son, who she's dearly attached to, and then she's going to go running into the forest looking for her son and die in a forest fire. From the fence. Wasn't intentional, like slap him around, but it was those who are to be protected, children are to be protected. She was just the opposite. She was the abuser. And it wasn't just sin, she died in a fire. in a state of madness. Who knows where she went after that? So your question came up this morning. And it was the context of the discussion. Varsana.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Many thoughts are coming to my mind. First few comments and then a question. One is that, hearing you speak about respect and, hearing Prabhu speak about patience, tolerance, it occurred to me today that, these are timeless truths. You had, when we were back in Penn State, we had certain difficulties with devotees about 16, 18 years ago, and we were still new. You told us about that, how respect goes to the soul. Respect is the like the fabric of relationship is respect and
I didn't have that phrase, but that's what I said. Yes,
but
I'm being reminded by several people. That's what I was speaking about.
But what I wanted to share is that even though just piggybacking on what Shruti said, it's not that we carried any of those qualities then or even now, but just hearing from you and just trying to follow gave us so much strength. And now looking back, that was our protection in those situations as well. So, thank you. And the second comment was...
What you're saying is, my conditioning can have a protection. My lower grade, whatever it is, material conditioning can have a protection just by this not really understanding, but following, because I'm looking up to somebody I like what they say, believe what they say, they set a nice standard, and so I'm just following. And that protects one from that lower nature.
It's not. Yes, we are lucky that we had you then and we have you now. The second thing is that yesterday during Sunday school, I was doing a session with middle schoolers. Without going into the detail, but I took them through an experience. And so the scene, the context is that in
Could you point the speaker this way, because your voice is strong, and then it starts to fade.
Okay,
You're doing fine. It's this guy. Go ahead.
So the context that we are dealing with in Sunday school is Arjuna facing his teachers.
Really?
And where he says, I'm going to drop the Gandiva and all of that. So I didn't just want to read through those verses, so I set up a scene for the students to do it. Without going into the details, but basically they came to the conclusion that Arjuna dropped his weapons because of respect.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking that, just like we hear this Bhakti Lata Bija, so respect is innate to the soul.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's the conditioning that has to be peeled away. That is what is leading to disrespect. And so this process of hearing repeatedly, the shield is actually the peeling away of the conditioning. So I wanted to share that.
No, say the preliminary obstacle is? Is that what you're saying?
No, not the obstacle, but I guess I can frame it in a different way. Could we say that respect is also innate to the soul?
Yes. But then where does it pinned? Where's the intelligence gives a place to pose that respect? And this has been her question. There's morality, and then there's Bhagavad Dharma. And Krishna says, do it. That's it. That's it. If you're Arjuna, that's it. The rest of us will, yeah, but before you said this, and now you're saying, it's the same, Bhagavad Gita. Before you said renounce work, now you're saying work and devotion. Which is it? be respectful, and then kill them. Which is it? So seeking clarification from the right teacher with the right teachings, and that's Bhagavad Dharma. And then there's a whole bunch of other people, they don't care. Without naming names. Go ahead.
This other question is not related to this retreat, so
Okay.
Okay.
I'm game with unrelated questions. I was expecting we're going to have a short session today, so I'm wide open for anything under the sun in the middle of the night. Close your eyes.
I think this, I can't remember, maybe it was during the Vraja Kathamrita series, I think I had this question. And that is, when there is a physical ailment or an illness, we may think, we can think it's Krishna's mercy, we can think it's a prarabdha karma, whatever it's playing out. But when it is some sort of, instead of a physical weakness, it's some sort of a mental weakness, in the context of Madhurya Kadamini, we hear the word Hridaya Daurbalyam.
You just spoke real fast. Say it slower.
So, if it is physical, it is pretty clear that it is, we can attribute a reason to it and, deal with it in a way that is practical, like if it's a physical illness. But if it is a mental illness like mental weakness, I'm wondering, is it important to know, is it Hridaya Daurbalyam or is it...
No, say it slower. Is it important to know...
Is it Hridaya Daurbalyam, the mental weakness that we hear of in Madhurya Kadambini, or is it karma that we are dealing with?
Mukunda, you say it. Just not 6 voices, just Mukunda, you say it.
Hridaya Daurbalyam, weakness of heart.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Is it important to know whether it's weakness of heart or
karma being played out?
Okay, thank you. Yes, important. And the discerning factor is intelligence. What is the intelligence? Intelligence is to distinguish this from that. Discernment. This falls into this category, that falls into that category. To be able to discern something requires intelligence. And then there's gradations of intelligence. So is it important? Is it important to have intelligence? Yes. Supposing I don't know the difference between karma and Hridaya Daurbalyam, what do I do? Go to Kmart and get some intelligence, right? You go back to the source that makes the distinction, and you read it again and you read it again. It's a little bit, it's similar to what Srila Prabhupada's instruction was to us, kids, when he Nectar of Devotion was published, 1970, summer, Nectar of Devotion was published. And his explanation was, if you don't understand something, read it again. And if you don't understand after reading it again, read it again. Not necessarily the next minute, but and again, and in course of time, the light goes on. That's intelligence. You can distinguish this from that. Spiritual intelligence. So your question is it important to know, is it this or that? The answer is yes, it's important. Supposing I don't make it, I can't discern. My intelligence isn't refined enough. Then you go over it again, you read the scripture again, you go to elevated souls, chances are you'll get different opinions about, is it this or that? Because different devotees have different realizations, and you just muddle your way a little bit through that, but find persons who you trust Like, this other example you gave at Penn State. So you go forward with that. If it needs some fine-tuning, as your consciousness and intelligence become more refined, you'll be able to discern this from that better. And what do you do in the meantime? That's the next question. When you're not able to discern, you shrug your shoulders. In time, Krishna will reveal it to me. For now, this is something that I know, and I'm going to do that which I know. Because this which I know will bring purification. The 9 processes of bhakti will bring purification. And as I become more purified, the coverings of the soul are lifted, and the original consciousness of the soul becomes awakened, and I'll be in a better position to discern this from that. Now, weakness of heart, just going a little bit further, weakness of heart implies, at least to me it implies, you know but you don't do. And why don't you do? My determination is weak. I know what's right or I know what's wrong, and because of weakness of heart, I don't do what's right and I do what's wrong. It's not precisely karma. It's just the capacity to know what's right. I don't do, and so the weakness is weakness of bhakti. If my wanted, it's like Arjuna. Back to this question with the kids. It's true. It's of the soul. Wanting to, being respectful of superiors. It's of the soul. Bhakti is of the soul. And it's part of bhakti. Then Krishna says, then it's okay. Battle. Because Krishna says, no, let's just, I'm going to go a little bit more with this. I was appreciating in the 10th day of the battle, the 10th day of the battle is when Bhishma Dev got shot by so many arrows that there wasn't, it wasn't a centimeter of difference between his body and the next arrow. He was riddled with Arjuna's arrows. And Arjuna knew how to do it, but he didn't want to do it. Before the Bhagavad Gita, during the Bhagavad Gita, before the battle, and he goes, so Krishna reminded him, Arjuna, remember what you promised at the palace of King Bharat? When you found out it's going to be war, you said, remember, even if I have to kill grandfather Bhishma, I'll do it. This is before the battle. And then on the first day of the battle, you understood. Now again, you're hesitating. Arjuna, don't hesitate. Kill him. Grandfather Bhishma said last night to Yudhisthira, this is how I can be destroyed. And Arjuna is the one that will destroy me. Yudhisthira asked for me, so just like, now, was that weakness of heart or was that karma? It's not karma. It's respect. But that worldly respect was appropriate, absolutely appropriate. He's grandfather. It's actually appropriate. And Krishna said, do it. And then so Arjuna said, what can I do? You're giving this instruction I have to do. I promised I have to do. Oh, how unfortunate, being a warrior. Persons who should be honored have to be killed. What an awful position to be in. Yes, I'll do it. 3 times. So lapsing into weakness of heart, that's, but why was that? it wasn't the weakness of heart that we undergo. It's Krishna, demonstrating, having Arjuna act as if he's one of us, so we can understand. It's difficult to overcome weakness of heart, but there's bhakti can overcome it. So he did it. And one of the things I find amazing, do you know how many days Bhishma lied on that battlefield with his body ridden with arrows? Who knows the number of days? I forget. 56 days or 86 days or something like that. He's just lying on the battlefield. And they went off and had, Yudhishthira getting inaugurated as the king. And they came back dressed in royal. I mean, how could they do that? He didn't want to leave until the right moment, and then he left. And there's lots of mystery in the Mahabharata, and Krishna's past the exchanges with his devotees. So back to your question, how do we know? It takes intelligence. How do you get intelligence? From Krishna. Bhakti gives it. Dadami bodhi yogam tam, yena mamapi antite. Desham satatayuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam. Until then, we're giving one of these. Here's a little precursor to the event in Gitanagari Memorial Day weekend. One of the speakers, the co-speaker, is going to be Garuda Prabhu. Some of you may know him, some of you may not know him. He's funny. He's highly learned. And he makes really good jokes. We were just having a conversation with him about something, and he said, Swamiji, Sanskrit is very nuanced. Without the topic, I was asking a topic, what's your take on something? And he said, in India, they understand nuance. He says, like he said, the head wobble. And the head wobble can mean no. The same head wobble can mean yes. The same head wobble can mean maybe. The same head wobble can mean I don't know. Then you get another four items on the list, and people seem to know which it means. People in India are accustomed to nuances. And Sanskrit has nuances. It's like really, really cute. I mean, the topic, this is off topic, but the topic I was asking him about is, in amongst the Chinese devotees, they wanted to know two things. In Goloka, does Krishna have a childhood pastime? The answer is no. That's not the head wobble. It's no. There's Prabhupada. There's no birth, so there's no childhood pastimes. Although everything is within Krishna, and therefore the potency and the love towards Krishna like that is within Krishna and within Mother Yashoda. But he's the youth, eternally in Goloka. But within Krishna is everything. And then came, well, if that's the case, is there Parakya or Swakya in Goloka? And he gave me the head wobble answer. He said, Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami say two opposite opinions, and they both are in agreement. Does the head wobble? Because within Krishna is everything. So both within marriage and outside of marriage. That was his answer. So get ready for, please invite your friends and people that aren't your friends. So come to Gitanagri and hear the Garuda show. It's like really amazing, vastly learned, and and funny. And the big smile, lots of laughter. So, sorry for that detour. I think it's okay. Yes. Just go ahead and speak. You don't need a microphone. Here comes the microphone.
I have a couple of questions. So, one is on the point when Bhishma Deva says to Yudhishthira Maharaj, men are the slave of wealth, but wealth is no one's slave. So in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teachings also we hear in one of bhajan, Bifale Sevin Kripana Durjana Chapala Sukhalava Lagire. So
humility. Come on.
Yeah, so what should be my consciousness? I want to ask is, what should be the consciousness one should carry at workplace, as
Purity, that's the consciousness. You ask Shruti, she knows. You don't do the cosmetic thing, you do the genuine thing. That's the consciousness you should carry. Here's the head wobble. Next.
Next is actually offering obeisances is one of the way of showing respect.
Of course.
So, and even we see the advanced devotees like Raghunath Das Goswami offering so many counted number of obeisances each day. But comparing myself, in the starting of my Krishna consciousness, whenever I see devotees, meet devotees, I used to offer obeisances each time. But nowadays, I don't do that, or even during the prayers at home, like Tulsi prayers or standard prayers, also not paying full obeisances, or those things are creeping in. So, what should be the remedy, or
You ready to get spanked? We're going to spank you publicly. Whack, whack, whack. They had enough, here's 3 more. Whack, whack, whack. No. When you're on the platform of spontaneous devotion, as Raghunath Das was, he still followed. Sanatana Goswami similarly. And it's not on that platform, but they're setting a standard. And their mood is the mood of humility. So don't just be a cosmetic obeisance payer. If that's it, then be a cosmetic obeisances player or performer. But enter into the spirit of what it is. It's really easy, like falling off a log, to just do stuff mindlessly. At the same time, the things that we do mindlessly, there's power in them. Let's take, for example, singing Jai Radha Madhava. It can be mindless. Or paying obeisances, it can be mindless. But what's the meaning of it? And enter into the spirit of the meaning of it, and it's bhakti. So you're not on the spontaneous platform, and don't leave the regular platform. And to the degree to which you leave the regular platform, you're opening the door for you know what. And her name starts with an M. And she'll come right in. Uninvited guest, and take over. And something like Acharya Nishtha said, you don't even know it. Others can see it. Your wife may tell you, politely. Prabhu, you're in Maya. Or a good friend may tell you. But otherwise you can't see it. So, pass the microphone. Who's the next person? Subal? This is a very special microphone. Even's got Subal baffled.
I was very touched, and you brought it, in the class and then in the Sunday class, the example of Maharaj Yudhisthira doing those gestures of respect. And during the presentation that you made, when you brought that example, there was one of the bullet points that say Maharaj Yudhisthira as the protector, by protecting religion protected him. So, and I'm, so acting in that culture of respect through, protecting the codes of religion, he was a perfect example as a leader. Now, I was reflecting and running a parallel with being a leader in ISKCON. And in one sense, I remember just seeing your example and trying to follow your example as always being an ISKCON man and being very protective of ISKCON, the structure that Prabhupada gave us, and being very loyal to it, in despite of all the things that happens and people that sort of trample it,
etc., etc. So rather going there, yeah.
So, when I came across in recent training to the ISKCON law, which is basically the codes of the guidelines of how to represent ISKCON into the world, is what Prabhupada gave us, is what all of you, especially you, were part of that body for many, many years. How important it is for us as leaders to be quite acquainted with ISKCON law and represent it and act, in a respectful manner, because it's all there, it's part of the codes that are there. So it's something that not necessarily is being promoted so much, although there's so much work that has been done through all the decades of existence of the GBC. And
you're making a comment. What's your question?
Where you were there,
yeah.
How important, or what importance is given to actually make the ISKCON law something that is, is ingrained in our leadership?
Well, there are different leaders and there are different followers. And then diversity is getting, from my observation, is getting, more diverse amongst the leaders and amongst the followers. So your question is, how important was it for me at that time that there's a vision in the ultimate managing authority that that's what we're supposed to be doing? That seems to be what you're asking, yes?
Not just you, but for ISKCON leaders.
Well, the followers need leaders that are attached to Prabhupada. Then what does attached to Prabhupada look like? Ask n number of people, you get n different answers. What does it look like? But it's a principle, so there's diversity, but the principle is very, very important. And my observation is time moves in cycles, and something like a pendulum, it swings this way, and it swings that way, and it swings this way, and it swings that way, and I don't know how much the rank and file relate to what it means to be a GBC. They have somebody that's, every geographic area in the world has a GBC, And how much do they relate to that GBC person? Or then the substructure under that GBC person that has its own nomenclature and stuff like that. But those who have that position need to be thinking, we're representing our founder Acharya. And this is the structure that our founder Acharya gave us to maintain the integrity of ISKCON over the decades. And so by decisions made and by actions taken, we're upholding the vision of our founder Acharya. Now, back to your question is, how important are these laws? Laws are important, and it's good to know what the laws are, but how many people know what the laws are? How many GBC members know what the laws are, frankly? The spirit is there, but the details, there's like a lot of details. And how much are those details being followed by the GBC and followed by those under the GBC and then rank and file? It seems that you're pointing to something similar to what Dharmam hi sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma is given by the personality of Godhead only. And then, and our founder Acharya is representative of, and then GBC is representative of our founder Acharya. And that's the hat, that's the assignment, that's the respect that is given to them by the GBC body, the assembly, and this is just from discussions with Kaladri, who I speak to regularly. There's a whole exodus of GBC members because of age. And then, as you know, because you took some of the seminars for succession. And then identifying the right people to teach the seminars for succession, and so it's, you know, the way that you're phrasing your question is, I phrased it a different way. My way is, what's ISKCON going to be in 50 years from now? And it's the same question as you're asking, you know, how important is it that those in a leadership position, whether it's GBC or others in a leadership position, understand they're representing our founder Acharya. And they have to, their achar and prachar have to be, that for me, this Vaishnava Etiquette seminar is the achar of the followers. And then there's leaders that are supposed to exemplify the behavior and conduct. And is it important? It's really important. Because otherwise it's just going to fizzle over the decades into, you know, a group of people that have this idea, that idea, the other idea, and they're bashing each other. It's already going on. Is it important? Yes, it's important. The spirit more than the letter. And this gets into ISKCON politics, and that can go on forever. So that's my answer to your question. Mukunda, you have these good questions.
I don't know if you'll like this one.
No, they're challenging questions. I like your challenging questions. I mean, it's not like insulting questions, kind of challenging, but don't just sit on your high seat and say blah, blah. Here's a tough one. Go ahead.
Well, first I wanted to amplify Varsana Mataji's appreciation of her time at Penn State and reflecting on how the instruction from someone that she looks up to empowered her to apply the principle. As I was hearing her speak to that, I was realizing that in my own contemplation of what I've been hearing this weekend, I actually was leaving that out because it wasn't striking me as practical, but it seems, I think, as I reflect on it, it's one of those like magical elements of Krishna consciousness that you can't really define, like the power of this, the empowerment that comes just from hearing someone that you look up to tell you to respect others. So I wanted to just appreciate that.
Did you hear Leela Manjari's comment similar?
No.
I'll repeat. Just amplify what you just said. You know, in the middle of everything, she raised her hand. In 2005, I don't remember, you gave a class on respect. And that changed my life. I listened to it many, many times. I lived with that. And it taught me that I need to be, and it helped me become respectful. Because it was life-changing. I mean, I don't remember what I said in 2005. I don't remember what I said at Penn State either. But she does. So it's impactful. And, you know, these are two individuals. To me, it's meaningful. Because, you know, like what was been said here by myself and Radhakrishna, who knows? Because Premananda has her ideas, it's going to be in the archives, and, you know, make it something that devotees are encouraged to, if not mandatory. If you want to be, you know, initiated, or you want to be, you know, recognized person, please listen to these recordings, because you have to be. So there's a purpose behind modeling and speaking that which you model. And it's protective and uplifting. So I'm just amplifying what you just said.
Reflecting back on your managerial days, and I guess I'll preempt this by saying I hope that nobody in the room takes this personally, but I've noticed that Indians have a certain nature of generally being able to behave properly, but, you know, internally
something
maybe
else,
not feeling that. Americans have the ability, like what you see is what you get, but there's just like an unrefined nature to it that naturally comes with that most of the time. So I was just curious to hear your reflections on dealing with these different types of personalities in regards to this topic of respect.
And you add another one, newer generation people of whatever their background is. That's a whole other category. Not you, but younger generation people in general. They've got a different compass, a different set of yardsticks, a different way of looking at the world and interacting with it. Now, not everybody's like that, but, you know, that generally speaking, it's another category. So, how to address different audiences? That's your question. How to speak and behave differently with different audiences. It's a little bit, my thought on this is a little bit like a relationship. A relationship depends upon, you know, on the spiritual plane, knowing yourself and knowing the other person on the spiritual plane, and then acknowledging the differences, yourself and them, and what's relevant and relatable to the audience on the physical, psychophysical plane, while bearing in mind their spiritual entities. And they have their spiritual inclinations, needs, etc., etc. If not, they wouldn't be in the assembly of Vaishnavas. So there's that spiritual spark is there. And then there's to fan the spark, and according to their psychophysical natures. So it's a little bit. In one sense it's a challenge. In other sense it's like fun. It's just being relevant and relatable for different audiences, according to the different audiences. I'll just give a little, for example. For example, just before coming from Atlanta to Naperville, I was in Atlanta. And the last evening was their Self-Discovery Center, SDC. And it's like, was 95% Western. You know, Western means, you know, from Russia and from Lower Slavovia, and yet wherever they came from, they weren't non-resident Indians. And so it's a different audience. So, you know, your question is how to be relevant, relatable to different audiences, knowing. So my sense of that group that I was in front of, they have a good teacher. Vedasar is a good teacher. And he's very relatable. And he understands them better than I understand them. And he's like a Pied Piper. He stands up and has them do stretching, and they stand up and do stretching. You know, reach for the sky, they're reaching for the sky. You know, that's like kindergarten. But, you know, because he is who he is, they go with it because he is who he is. Not just because they're kindergarten kids. Because he relates with them, and so they relate with him. It's a relationship. You know, I didn't do that. I can't do. It's not my. But you know, so he does with them what they do, and I was his guest speaker, and you know the feedback from him, because the day after on the way to the airport to come to Naperville, you know, a half hour, 40-minute discussion about the meaningfulness of what I said, connecting with them. And it was about relationships. Rupa Goswami, retelling Rupa Goswami's message in simple language. And they got it. They liked it. It relates to something that's important to them. And then he did the stretching, and then the yoga, and then the kirtan and prasadam, and you know, everything else. So, for me, because your question is a personal question, it helps having somebody that knows the audience better than I know the audience, both types. Although in ISKCON today, audiences look around the room. You know, it's one of my soapbox issues. We're not doing our job so well. And we're not doing it as well as it could be. So with different audiences, some persons are really good at it. Vedasar is one who's really good at it. There's some that are also really good at it. And so it helps me to be with somebody that knows their audience, and then they can kind of, you know, point me in the direction, and they have the relationship, and that's a cement that holds everything together. And just following, go in that direction, not in this direction. Okay, great. Yes.
So, on the other, a different aspect of this, you know, for the sake of comparing like Indian to American culture stuff, you know, when I growing up in ISKCON, I have become trained. I am very qualified to look like a good devotee. I know what I need to do and how to act in order to appear.
This cosmetic topic that she brought up.
Cosmetic topic.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a place where I'm not interested in how to look and appear as much as what I'm so I've shifted to the American side, I guess. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then Americans shift to the Indian thing. It's not just being cosmetic, but you know, being genuine. Being anyway, go ahead. I'm listening because of Sri Radhika's credit. I'm listening to the audio book of Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. And even his raspy voice is cool. And and where he went, where he came from, and where he went to, and what the rest I haven't heard yet. It's like, wow. And he was like, without using the proper language, he was out of it before he came in contact with Prabhupada, before Prabhupada came in contact with him. But, sincere as all get out, and that little spark, and Prabhupada went. So then he had good association, and well, et cetera, et cetera. So then he went, and he went, and he went, and he went, and he went. I mean, I just got up to the point where he's sitting in the room with the 4 Beatles, because George invited him to come, because the guys want to hear what you have to say. And he's like, what? The 4 most influential people in the world today, and I'm sitting in the room with these 4 guys? What am I going to say? And, how did this happen? And anyway, one can be transformed from this type to that type, and or the other way around. And so what we want is that there's a real thing. That's the spark, and that's how the spark gets fanned. Back to the initial question, different audiences, different things can fan that spark. The older generation Indians, they want what they want. The younger generation Indians want what they want. And this newer generation people, I don't know what they want. I guess they're trying to find out what they want. And fan the spark. Ooh. You have more on this? You're satisfied?
No. I appreciate it. I just wanted to hear your reflections on these dynamics.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And take my. I'm 76. I've just had to get the reminder. I'm 76. That's an old guy. I'm like an old, whatever it is. And how to remain youthful when you're with youthful people? You have to be flexible.
Maharaj, my question was, is it generally possible to have respect? I guess is it possible to have respect in a relationship between peers or devotee and superior if there's disagreement between the parties?
Respect differences. Now, as comes the question Mukunda asked, where do you draw the line? My answer to that is you don't lose respect. When you draw the line, you don't lose respect. You may disagree. You may disagree in different ways, but don't abandon respect, because that gets into the material zone, and that's not a nice place to be. Not going to help you, not going to help them, not going to help the situation, the dynamic. It doesn't help anybody doing anything. Go ahead.
Is there ever a scenario where you should agree for the sake of?
Do what?
Is there ever a scenario where you should just agree with the other party for the sake of not losing respect in that relationship?
Not losing respect.
Yeah, should you just agree with what they're saying? So you don't
Well, this is this cosmetic question. And I personally, I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, some persons may do that, and I'm not going to say, and scold them and say, you're not supposed to do that. They may do that. But then that becomes a habit. And then you don't know who you are. You don't know what your values are. You don't know who you are. You're just this chameleon that changes colors according to circumstance. So I prefer differences. And you have this position. I recognize your position and why. I don't agree with your position or why, but that's okay. But, I have a different position, a different view, a different stance, and you can be disrespectful to me if you like, but I'm going to be respectful to you. Then there is a place where it crosses the line. Not losing of respect. I mean, as I'm speaking, I'm thinking of a certain person who's just an abusive person, like to the max. And it's not just one person, he's just an abusive person. He beats up on a particular person. He beats up on moving, walking, standing still. He beats up on people. And he's mean. And has good tools. He beats up people really bad. And he thinks he's right. I'm just keeping a distance from that person. Respectful distance. Because I don't see that the other persons have tried to help him and he doesn't go in. So, respectful distance. I don't agree with him. I'm not using his name. You can guess who his name might be, that's okay. I'm not revealing the name, but there are persons like that. But you're not going to just agree because it's politically correct to agree. I disagree with. There may have been circumstances when he was harsh with somebody and it was appropriate. I can't think of one, but there probably were some. But be who you are. Be genuine. Be clear. Try to be clear who you are, your psychophysical nature, and your value systems, and just a little bit like what just Mukunda just said. I'm becoming a little more like a Western young man. It's I am what you see. Okay. Yeah, online, and then I think Sri Radhika, and then we're going to end because it's already 12 minutes before noon. I thought we were going to have a short session, so therefore I was been like all over the place. But it's getting to be. Time's up. Online.
This is from a new devotee who is going online. Why do we call Prabhuji and Mataji in ISKCON? Is it a respect towards a person? When we have a familiarity with a person or good friends or younger people, do we still call Mataji and Prabhuji?
I got about 10% of what you said.
Why do we call Prabhuji and Mataji in ISKCON?
What?
Prabhuji and Mataji. Why do we call devotees?
Oh, why do we use that nomenclature?
Yeah, and also, is it when we are familiar with the person?
Is it what?
When we are more closer to the persons, do we still call them Prabhuji and Mataji?
Oh, it's simple. It's etiquette. So Vaishnava etiquette. You see others as your Prabhu. You're the servant of, and they're the master of. So therefore, Prabhu. That's, you can say that to ladies too, Prabhu. But then Mataji has to do with the culture of seeing, according to Chanakya Pandit and, others that follow that principle, all women, other than your wife, you see as mother. And mother is to be respected. And so Mataji indicates respect. Now, sometimes people use those three syllables in derisive tone. Mataji. Mukunda likes it. So, but that's why it's there. It's a nomenclature of respect. All women, other than your wife, are mother, seen as mother. And all those who are around you, you serve as the servant, your das, and they're the Prabhu, the servant. So a wife may also address her husband rather than by name. It's a cultural thing. Different persons do it different ways. But my Prabhu, that's different. That's why the nomenclature is there. And then the other question is?
This is from Raminta Mataji. So she has a realization and question. I have a sobering realization.
You have a what?
Sobering realization.
A what?
Sobering.
Sobering, thank you.
That since we are parts and parcels of Krishna, that means everything that happens to all of us in our lives, good or bad, is orchestrated by Krishna.
No.
For our own benefit.
Sanctioned by, not orchestrated by. Prakriti does the orchestrating. Krishna nods. Sanctions. Upadrashta, Anumanta. Okay.
At the end of the day, who are we to have perfect life and to have only perfect devotees and only perfect friends? I know it still really hurts when people around us do not behave to our taste.
According to our taste. Oh, come on. We're not the center. Give up the I'm the center notion. Put Krishna in the center and see what you get.
But most of the time they do not behave because of their own pain or ignorance.
Oh, point fingers. Maybe the person asking this question also behaves in a way that's not according to another person's expectation of how they should behave. Now what? Who wins? Have an arm wrestling match. The stronger one wins. Might is right. No, that's not the standard. The standard is this devotee asking this question needs to study Shastra carefully and the lives of exalted souls carefully, and that's the standard. And other than the standard, it goes into the margin at best, if not into the wastebasket.
Maybe we need to fire up our bhakti and do more rounds of chanting.
Yes.
Give all respect to Krishna for giving us a chance to get closer to Him.
Yes.
In this life, instead of complaining about events in our lives,
right.
Krishna arranged for us.
You can give the next Bhagavatam class.
By complaining about our lives, we complain about Krishna, what Krishna gave us to improve our lives. By that, we are telling Krishna that we know better than Him what is good for us.
Okay, you got it.
The question is, would it be karma kanda to ask Krishna for life without pain and problems?
Yes. But karma kanda has a connotation. The connotation of karma kanda is devatas are propitiated, give me this, give me that, give me the other thing. And it's not karma kanda, it's material to approach Krishna for this and that and the other thing.
I have a few questions.
Oh, you have 6 minutes.
Something I understood during this retreat is that the essence of respect is a loving exchange that's steeped in gratitude, and then there's the formalities, such as speaking when spoken to, touching the feet of the elders, the examples that you gave. And you just brought up, and you often bring up this question of where is ISKCON going to be in the next 50 years? So, as you were just pointing out, in these different generations, there's different cultures. Is it that the process of Bhagavad Dharma is so powerful that even, current generation is Generation Alpha, and I don't know what's to come in the next 50 years, that by following sincerely, the form of respect will be uniform.
Will be uniform?
In the sense the examples that we heard from scriptures?
Well, it'll be principle uniform, but not necessarily outside uniform. This is, Mukunda's question or topic. Go ahead. So that's it?
So, the essence and the principle can be preserved, even the generations have different cultures, but the form will need time, place, circumstance adjustment.
Form can change, but essence doesn't. Provided the essence is captured in the next generation. And is it possible, it has happened in history, that not only the form changes, but the essence changes? So many deviated sampradayas because they don't follow the sampradaya. Apasiddhanta. Against the Siddhanta. But then something against the Siddhanta becomes the Siddhanta. And it happens. It has happened, will it happen? That depends on, the earlier part of what you said. The form can change. I mean, when I joined the Hare Krishna movement 56 years ago, it didn't look like this. The form has changed. It's okay, provided the essence remains.
I have a silly question, but who else will I submit it to if I don't submit it to you? So I'm going to ask anyway. Guru Maharaj, in olden times we hear of so much effort that devotees make to seek guidance and reach saintly associations. So Dhruva went to the forest, and Vidura went in search of Maitreya. And one of the benedictions and the curses of Kali Yuga is smartphones. We now have the ability to reach pure devotees through texting. And texting is usually a much more concise and quick and informal way of communication. And I'm concerned about Vaishnava etiquette related to our ability to reach devotees in such quick forms of communication. I was just wondering if you would give some guidelines around, or what are your thoughts on?
My thoughts are, it depends. Some topics are best concise, and some topics take some time. And depends, this is the intelligent, discerning which is the category of something that takes some time. I mean, in thinking about what you're commenting, from one devotee, I just received like a 3.5-page letter yesterday on something that's very personal. And then that same devotee sent a little text message that was really short. In one topic was, short was just fine. And the other topic, the lengthy explanation was just fine. And it could be something that's spoken in person as opposed to that medium of a long email, the 3.5-page email. So it takes intelligence to know which is appropriate. So the texting element is useful. And sometimes I have to ask people who would send these long texts, please send it by email. Just send it, just send it again, please. And if we need some discussion, we'll discuss. So, it has its place. That's my personal response. Some things are very, very simple. And some things are a little more delicate, and then take conversation, and sometimes in person. So, depending. Wait a minute. We have 2 minutes.
Guru Maharaj restarted 20 minutes later, so...
No.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
You have the last question, go ahead. It's going to be concise, right?
It's a short question, I hope at least.
Okay, good.
So, I know in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we hear or we read that Lord Chaitanya bathed in Ganga as soon as someone had paid obeisances to him. Because, like their sins or something you accrue or something. I don't know what the exact reason. So, but then the Vaishnava Etiquette, we learn that you should pay obeisances to elders and seniors.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing some conflicting. I don't know. Maybe I need to have a better understanding of maybe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says no, you should never let anyone touch your feet.
I don't.
So what is? I mean, how should we see this? Should we just maybe I'm not doing it the right way? Is that what it is?
I'm not sure what you're asking. What should our behavior be when people want to touch your feet?
Right.
That's your question.
Or we want to touch someone's feet. Like we're not literally touching the feet, but like at least paying obeisances. And
That's okay. Paying obeisances is okay. Touching feet is something else.
okay, so I was thinking both are the same.
No.
Thing.
It's just respect, but then there's a form of the respect. And that's me. There's some persons that think that's nice. I mean, some persons on the receiving end think it's good for the person on the touching feet side. It's good for them to touch feet because it's good for them spiritually, so go ahead. And I don't like that. That's me. Not.
I think it's a culturally thing. I know in like.
Yeah, culture. That's another thing. So it's a little bit like this question of over time.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Here's a detail. In Atlanta, I was at a home program. The persons who were the host of the home program I could tell as soon as I walked in the door, they wanted this formality, that formality. I just ran inside and sat down. And then they wanted to, offer a lamp and offer flowers and put stuff on my feet and just, shoot them away. And they looked at each other, looked at the host, their leader, and, just because I didn't want it. They wanted it, but I didn't want it. So just, you serve not just according to what you think this is the way it should be, but I'm this American guy, and I don't like people doing all that stuff. Even it may be good for them. I'm sorry. It's just like, and this, for me, it comes from Bhaktisiddhanta. He refused. And he was in India, and he refused. I'm American, and I refuse. I'm standing behind Bhaktisiddhanta, and I refuse. So there. And they can like it or not like it.
And Romapada also has mentioned that in Pervert of one of the Srimad Perverts that when the groom comes, you should do this.
Okay. If you try to do that with me, you're going to get shooed away. Okay. So you can do that with somebody else. I give you some names that they like it. But, not me. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Just wait. Just wait. Go ahead.
All good things come to an end, and it's very clear from the exchanges we just had how touched we are. So this has been an extremely moving seminar, and we're so grateful to you, Guru Maharaj, for training us so painstakingly. On behalf of the organizing team, I have some folks to thank for putting this event together. And I want to start with our dear mother, Premananda Mataji. Maharaj, once in his last trip, he said, how does Premananda do what Premananda does? And it baffles all of us. And we're so grateful to you for providing us opportunities for training such as this. Where would we be without your leadership? And many cooks that put this event together, Nityapriya, Narahari, Srinivas Charan, Amara, Vinod Bihari, Jyotirmaya, Lakshmikant, and Preeti Lakshna. So thanking all these cooks for their services and for feeding us. Haribol. Govindas for all their support and lots of accommodations, moving their venue for what they do up and down to accommodate us. Also thanking Mohan Leela Das and Shatrupa Devidasi and Sri Rupa Devidasi for the breakout sessions. Haribol. And many, many other devotees that may not have been named for their services, for this team that hosts and puts these events together. It can be tiring. We just did Vyasa Puja together, so very grateful. And last but not the least, I want to thank Amrita Kelly. It's the mood with which she welcomed all of us, and the little things. Do you need a plate? Let me save a plate for you, or you have a special diet. Just the little gestures, the way she reached out to all of us, and her untiring pillar of support, Vrindavan Prabhu, who is probably downstairs. He's like the salt in the food. You don't ever see him. You don't ever think you need to appreciate him, but constantly serving. And thanks to the rest of your family, Nandu and Abhi, for tolerating all these months of effort that has gone as an entire family into putting this event together. Thank you. She's reminding me to thank Guru Maharaj and Radhakrishna Prabhu, who we sent off. He left at 11 o'clock to the airport, and very, very grateful. And thanking Gopal Hari Prabhu for also being one of the speakers. Thank you.
And Shri Radhika Mataji and Yamuna Jivan Prabhu for hosting